We went to Pennsylvania to celebrate Pride. Welcome everyone to Powered by Rainbows. I am of course your host, Professor Pride. And this past week, we went to Schuylkill PrideFest 2022. This was the first stop on our PBR Experience Tour that will last all summer long and is available to come to your city's Pride events, museum, community event, or your school all summer long, so definitely email us if you want us to come to your city. It was amazing to say the least, because before this event even got going too much, kids were already yelling across the walkway, calling me Professor Pride, which is just incredible to hear kids admire our show so much. In our booth, we had our camera there to show fans what it was really like to be hosting a TV show like I get to do every week here. Our fans also got to meet my co-host and boyfriend, Michael Martin Jr., our show's producers, Mike and Anna Johnson, advisor AJ Skipper and Michaela Gavelitz, and our tour manager, Gene Haslam. You might remember this Pride event because 3 years ago, I was the keynote speaker at this Pride, back when it was called the Pottsville Pride. But this year, they changed the name and the location to a much larger space at the Schuylkill County Fairgrounds, which is so much bigger, which offered us tons more room to spread out and have dozens of more vendors there this year, which was a very welcome sight to see. This year, there were vendor booths from many amazing organizations, from the Human Rights Campaign to the Pennsylvania Youth Congress. There were so many vendors this year that we literally couldn't speak to all of them in the day that we had, aside from running our own booth and meeting all of our incredible fans. But we were able to speak with the Schuylkill Wellness Program, a group providing STI testing, and we hope to do an episode with them very, very soon. We also spoke with the Hope Center, which provides shelters for LGBTQ youth in their time of need. Sark, who we did an interview with last year during Pride 2021. The Lehigh Valley Health Network, whom we hope to get an interview with very soon concerning LGBTQ health needs. The VA Hospital, which allowed us to speak with their head of LGBTQ veteran affairs for the entire United States, and someone who we very much hope to get an interview with very soon for the show. There was the Schuylkill County Democrats there in spades with tons of their candidates coming over to ask us how they can help the LGBTQ community if they are elected. Many of these candidates are going to be featured on the Pennsylvania Equality Project's YouTube channel for individual interviews in the months to come. Of course, there was once again great food and sweets from the Washington Hotel, Cake Pros, Funnel Cake Stand, Health Blend, Hearsick Farms, Pressed Coffee, Something Sweet, and more. But of course, we have to point out our friends from AJ Skipper's art booth, who is an advisor for our show and administrator of the Schuylkill County LGBTQ Club. And we also have to give a big shout out and thank you to Pastor Sharon Stokes from Stokes Ministry, who we actually featured in our event vendor masterclass, linked down below by the way, and who took our advice on designing her booth this year from that master course, helping her make even more profits this year and virtually sell out of many items by the end of the day. She's also a great friend of ours and board member from the Pennsylvania Equality Project. So we sat down with her during this Pride event to ask her some questions.
With all the scary things going on in the world today, which there are a lot of them.
Yes, there is.
Do you have any message that you would like to give to the younger audience? Something hopeful, maybe make them a little less scared of the world?
Ooh, something hopeful. Well,
yeah.
Remember this. You are loved. You are loved for exactly who you are. You are loved for your true, authentic self. And you are so much braver than I was.
Now, when we were growing up, things were a lot harder. Would you say that things have gotten better over the years, or worse, or a little of both?
There was a brief moment in time I thought things were really looking better.
Yeah.
That I thought our young LGBTQ plus kids had so much of a better opportunity out there, and then you wake up one day and it's all over the news, just all the hate and the bigotry and just blatant meanness, really. You got to be a little thick-skinned to be able to be okay in your own skin, which almost sounds contradictory. Things are tough for you guys right now. And that's really all I can keep saying is that you're loved, that people want you here for you. You know what I mean? And I know it's so easy just to be like, I'm just throwing in the towel, and it's just not worth it. But you guys are worth it. You're worth everything. And remember, we've already walked this path.
True.
We had to fight, and the fight's not over yet.
No.
Not until one day we can all wake up and just be like, I'm in love, and here's who I'm with. So the whole religious thing. Somebody had tagged me in a TikTok, and I need to share this with you, because this pastor stood up there in front of his congregation of, I'm not sure how many, but it looked like a lot, and told people that our LGBTQ community was an abomination, and God wanted us all killed, and that was in the book of Romans, and that is a lie. That is just a blatant lie. And then he went on to say that we should all be lined up and shot in the back of the head. I have difficulty with that. That he would just lie. You know what I mean? And I get it, everybody's got their agenda, but here's the thing. There's not a single scripture in the Bible, any Bible of any version, that says to hate. As a matter of fact, Philip baptized eunuchs who had great power in the Bible. They held positions of high power. And for those who do not know what a eunuch is, I'll be really quick and use simple terms. A eunuch would be like a transgender from male to female. They voluntarily had their things removed. Matthew chapter 19 verse 12 says, Jesus said, some were born in the womb this way. Some had it by man. It was done by man. And some took care of it themselves. And for those, they will inherit the kingdom of heaven. Really sounds like they're talking about transgender people, doesn't it? Most of your religious leaders, and I don't want to badmouth any church or other pastor. The problem is they all have their own agenda. They fall under the evangelica, the Christians, things like that. My advice to all these young kids, if you have a question, you can email me. You can hit me up on Facebook or TikTok. You know what I mean? The ministry is literally on every social media platform. Ask me. I'll tell you the truth. And I can show you if that's your concern. There's no hate anywhere. We are supposed to love each other and accept each other for exactly who we are.
What sort of advice would you give to a child that's growing up in a household that might be dealing with, going to a hateful church like that? I mean, I know you don't want to badmouth them, but some of those churches, I will badmouth them if they're saying that there's violence.
Right, like the church that said, the pastor that said that we should all be shot in the back of the head.
That's terrible.
Because there hasn't been enough mass shootings in the United States this year. You know what I mean? Man,
it's tough.
It is so hard.
Yeah.
You have to. It's almost got to live in the closet for a minute, and that sounds terrible. You know what I mean? Because you're not old enough to leave, and if you come out, then especially if they are that way, you know what I mean, that strict, they will send you to conversion therapy because that's what those churches do. Because they believe that this is a mental illness and we can all be cured. That is not true either. You're not sick, but you do have to buy your time. And when you can get to a place where you can be your true, authentic self, Know that you are loved. Know that you are loved right now. Know that God loves you, and there are people outside of your home, outside of your church, that will accept you and keep you from harm and protect you, just like your parents are supposed to do and your churches are supposed to do, and they are falling short. Know that we are here. I'm here. My ministry's here. There's nothing that we wouldn't do for kids.
Thank you again to Sharon for taking the time to speak with us. Now, you might be noticing we didn't broadcast the entire event this year. We're only showing highlights this time. But that's because back in 2020, when I was the keynote speaker of this event, it cost us about $500 to broadcast the show. Last year, we hired cameramen and rented equipment to make the broadcast even better, but it cost us over $1,000 to broadcast one day. And both of those broadcasts, by the way, are not monetized on our channel because they have copyrighted music from the drag performances. So that's an awfully large cost for no return. This year, we decided to just become a vendor at the event and give our fans a more interactive exhibit. And while there were 2 local bands and a band from New York City there to perform throughout the day, we were so busy giving our fans a unique experience on camera and meeting so many incredible people who usually only get to see us on TV that we really didn't get a chance to turn around and enjoy the show ourselves. But I will say, it sounded fantastic all day long, and we heard everyone cheering throughout the day, so it must have been a good show. As we do with many of these summaries and reviews on our channel of Pride events, let's get to the summary. I would highly recommend going next year if you're in the area. This year, I think the larger venue and larger stage helped massively. Plus, it was all on flat ground, with plenty of parking this year, so the venue really made this an easier event to attend. But with that said, we do have a few notes to give. Their first year, they had a few people speaking, including myself, but no live music. The rest of the show was filled with drag performances, which were awesome, by the way, and you can definitely watch all of them, including my speech, on our channel in that year's full broadcast linked down below. Last year, they had 1 live band and filled the rest of their time with speeches and drag performances. But this year, with 3 live bands and some drag shows put in between, I believe this was the perfect balance as compared to previous years. This year, they did get rid of all of their speeches, besides a few moments the event directors or board members spoke. So I would have liked to see more speeches again, since speeches are wanted by Pride event goers. But again, they did strike a perfect balance between drag performers and live bands this year. Another note we have is the time of the event. When vendors signed up to be vendors at the event, like we did, we were all told it was from 12 noon to 6 p.m., with it stated in our contract that we had to be set up and ready by 11 a.m., an hour before fans walked in. This is something larger events don't do, but as any Boy Scout would tell you, it's always better to be prepared anyway. So we advertised that to our fans, 12 to 6, and told our staff members those were the times they needed to be there until. Months later, when a third band was booked for the Pride Fest, suddenly it was changed to 12 to 8 p.m., adding an additional 2 hours on the day as vendors. This extremely long day is partly why many of the vendors, including us, left at 6 p.m. We had to stick to our time we told our staff, plus many fans left at 5:30 after a drag performance and dinner. So while this was a minor oversight of the event staff, we felt terrible mostly for the New York City band that didn't start their show until 6:20, when lots of people already went home, including vendors. Before the event, you might have noticed we were one of the only media outlets advertising it to help the event organizers get more people there. So it would have been nice to get more media attention there. We did an interview with one newspaper, but even they relied on our footage to cover the story, since they didn't go in person. It was sad that so few outlets wanted to send a camera or a reporter there, even though the event organizers more than tried to get coverage there. So this was more of a downfall of the media and not the event itself or the event organizers in any way, shape, or form. But credit where it's due, plenty of people showed up anyway, even without massive media coverage. And as the first stop on our PBR Experience Tour, it was very successful for us as vendors and as an exhibit to help meet fans. Going to the event even allowed us to make contacts, and now we're in talks with several organizations to do book signings for our brand new book, LGBTQ Friendly Classrooms, in stores now in hardcover and paperback. Get it now on Amazon. The only other note I would have is for parties. The Schuylkill County Democrats were there and had many other candidates, but for a third year in a row, where was the Republican Party? I know many of our fans would say the Republicans don't support us in conservative areas such as Pennsylvania. But in talking with the event organizer in the months leading up to this Pride Fest, for the past year, she was getting complaints from Republicans in the county after allowing 2 Democratic candidates to speak at last year's Pride event. The Republicans complained they weren't being invited, even though they clearly were invited by the event organizer and our organizations. I personally reached out to them to come, but they refused to be there for 3 years now. Sadly, I know this is why speeches were cut entirely from this event, because Republicans didn't feel like they were given a fair chance to speak, even though they were invited as well and chose not to show up. It's kind of telling that the Republicans of the county would complain so much it changes how the event is run, and even after being invited for a third time, still did not show up as a vendor or even just as candidates walking around. Maybe that's because they didn't want to be caught on camera being an ally of our community and being at an event like this one, because it would potentially lose them more votes than it would gain them. But if they're going to lie about not being invited when there's footage to prove they are.
Our groups have asked the local community if it needs help. And with over 115 signatures on our online petition in the past 2 weeks, that answer is a resounding yes.
At least show up when you are invited. If you want to complain Democrats are unchallenged at events like this one and consistently get the LGBTQ vote in conservative areas, then show up to Pride events and do what the Democrats did. Walk over to booths like ours and ask us how you can help our community. Take our business card and connect with us later. It's not too difficult to figure out how to get our votes. Just show up and help us. Though next year our team is planning on exhibiting at larger Pride events across the country, we still very much encourage everyone to attend the Schuylkill County PrideFest when it happens again in 2023. Truly, our only notes for this Pride can be blamed on the media and a political party ruining things on us, like they always seem to do. So the event organizers of Schuylkill PrideFest did an incredible job here for a third year in a row. I would like to thank the event director, Michaela Gavelitz, for coming on our show to advertise the event, and for welcoming the PBR Experience Tour to the event this year. We also wanted to thank Mike Johnson for operating the drone camera in the air all day long, and providing us a copy of the footage to use in our summary here today. And while he didn't ask me to say this, I hope everyone goes and gives him some love at Mikey Rides It on Instagram. We also want to thank his beautiful wife Anna for helping run our booths, our tour manager Gene Haslam for coordinating our entire tour this year, for helping us set up and tear down our exhibit, and for helping move our entire TV studio to a brand new city this past month. Finally, I want to thank my incredible boyfriend, soon-to-be husband, and co-host Michael Martin Jr. He spent every night and weekend for the past 2 months working on our new apartment. Then, a week after we moved in, we almost finished everything at the apartment when I asked him to drive 2.5 hours with me just so we can work a Pride event for another 10 hours before driving back the next day. So he is well deserving of a break at this point. But I cannot thank him enough for being there at the event and for being the greatest partner in life I can ever ask for. But if you want a piece of the show and our PBR experience, check out pbrmerchstore.com to get brand new designs that are only available while we're on tour this year. And if you're the organizer of a Pride event, a museum, a science center, or a school, send us an email to have PBR The Experience come to your city this summer, or check out prideclassroom.com to have us come to your city in the future by clicking on speeches. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the LGBTQ community, check out this episode right here, or subscribe for weekly episodes. And if you like what we do and want some awesome merch, go to pbrmerchstore.com. As always, I am your host, Professor Pride. Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now.